Adam had sexual relations with his wife Eve, and she became pregnant. When she gave birth to Cain, she said, "With the Lord's help, I have produced a man." Later, she gave birth to his brother and named him Abel. When they grew up, Abel became a shepherd, while Cain cultivated the ground. When it was time for the harvest, Cain presented some of his crops as a gift to the Lord. Abel also brought a gift, the best portions of the firstborn lambs from his flock. The Lord accepted Abel and his gift, but he did not accept Cain and his gift. This made Cain very angry, and he looked dejected. "Why are you so angry?" the Lord asked Cain. "Why do you look so dejected? You will be accepted if you do what is right. But if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you, but you must subdue it and be its master." One day Cain suggested to his brother, "Let's go out into the fields." And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Afterward, the Lord asked Cain, "Where is your brother? Where is Abel?" "I don't know," Cain responded. "Am I my brother's guardian?" But the Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are cursed and banished from the ground, which has swallowed your brother's blood. No longer will the ground yield good crops for you, no matter how hard you work. From now on, you will be a homeless wanderer on the earth." Cain replied to the Lord, "My punishment is too great for me to bear. You have banished me from the land and from your presence. You have made me a homeless wanderer. Anyone who finds me will kill me." The Lord replied, "No, for I will give a sevenfold punishment to anyone who kills you." Then the Lord put a mark on Cain to warn anyone who might try to kill him. So Cain left the Lord's presence and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain had sexual relations with his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Then Cain founded a city, which he named Enoch, after his son. Enoch had a son named Irad. Irad became the father of Mehujael. Mehujael became the father of Methushael. Methushael became the father of Lamech. Lamech married two women. The first was named Ada, and the second was Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal, who was the first of those who raise livestock and live in tents. His brother's name was Jubal, the first of all who played the harp and flute. Lamech's other wife, Zillah, gave birth to a son named Tubal-Cain. He became an expert in forging tools of bronze and iron. Tubal-Cain had a sister named Naamah. One day Lamech said to his wives, "Ada and Zillah, hear my voice. Listen to me, you wives of Lamech. I have killed a man who attacked me, a young man who wounded me. If someone who kills Cain is punished 7 times, then the one who kills me will be punished 77 times." Adam had sexual relations with his wife again, and she gave birth to another son. She named him Seth, for she said, "God has granted me another son in place of Abel, whom Cain killed." When Seth grew up, he had a son and named him Enosh. At that time, people first began to worship the Lord by name.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. It's fascinating how certain stories just seem to stick with us through the ages, right?
It's true, and the story of Cain and Abel is definitely one of those. Jealousy, betrayal, sacrifice, it's got it all. And even though it's ancient, it still feels incredibly relevant today.
It really does. And you've brought a text that explores just why this story continues to resonate with people thousands of years after it was first told. So ready to take a deep dive into the world of Cain and Abel and uncover some of those timeless truths.
Absolutely. I think what often gets overlooked is that this story isn't just about the act of violence, but about the psychological and societal cracks it exposes.
It's like a cautionary tale whispered through generations, right?
Exactly.
And I feel like we all know someone who's been a little too competitive with a sibling or maybe a coworker. But to really understand this story, we have to go back to the beginning, right? It all starts with Cain and Abel bringing offerings to God. Cain, the farmer, brings his crops, and Abel, being a shepherd, offers his finest lamb. And this is where it gets interesting, because it's tempting to say, oh, God just preferred meat over veggies. but the source you shared digs a lot deeper than that, doesn't it?
It does. You see, the text puts a lot of emphasis on intention. Abel's offering, it was an act of genuine devotion, a real expression of gratitude and love.
A heartfelt offering.
Yes, exactly. But Cain's, on the other hand, it was more like he was just going through the motions, checking a box. There wasn't that same depth of connection.
Oh, wow. I can totally relate to that. Like, there's this one time I completely messed up a birthday present for a friend. I got so caught up in trying to find something impressive that I totally missed the mark on what would be meaningful to them. They probably still think I have terrible taste. But it's a good reminder that it's not just about the what, it's about the why behind the action, right?
Exactly. And you can almost feel that lack of genuine spirit snowballing into something much darker with Cain, you know?
It's true. It's like his jealousy just festered and grew.
But the story really seems to be warning us about that voice we all hear, that crouching at the door temptation that whispers to our insecurities and feeds our negative emotions.
Yeah, we've all felt that pull, haven't we? Procrastinating on a big project because we're doubting our abilities, snapping at a loved one because we're stressed. We may not be committing, biblical acts here, but those little compromises can really add up.
Absolutely. And I think that's where the story becomes really relatable. It's not just about avoiding major sins, but being aware of those seemingly small choices that can send us down a slippery slope. Cain's story, it's less about a single act of violence and more about the insidious nature of unchecked negativity.
And the aftermath of that unchecked negativity is where we really see the consequences play out, right?
Yeah.
The story doesn't shy away from asking that tough question, am I my brother's keeper? It's a phrase that people toss around a lot, but in the context of Cain's story, it always sends chills down my spine, like he's trying to distance himself from the consequences of his actions.
It's almost like he's in denial, trying to pretend that his actions don't have a ripple effect on the people around him.
Which is fascinating because even today we see that same kind of disconnect playing out in completely different ways.
Right.
Like you see it with online bullying, where people hide behind anonymous profiles and forget there's a real person on the other side of the screen.
It's so easy to forget that, isn't it?
It is, and it's like those actions, they have consequences even if we can't see them immediately.
Exactly. And I think that's what the story highlights so powerfully. That disconnect between action and consequence.
Right.
Cain trying to shrug off his responsibility, it's like a warning sign. It's a reminder that we can't isolate ourselves from the impact of our choices. We are our brother's keepers, like it or not.
We're all interconnected. And speaking of interconnectedness, one of the things that really struck me in this text was how Cain's sin, it doesn't just impact Abel. It's not even just their family. The land itself suffers. This environmental element to the story that feels almost prescient.
It's not even just environmental, it's societal too, because the text subtly points out how sin, it creates this ripple effect that goes way beyond the individual.
Right.
It's like a virus. It spreads and infects the very fabric of our shared existence.
Wow.
We see it today in the way that social injustices can, poison communities, even entire nations.
It makes you wonder if that's why the story has resonated for so long, because it's not just about two brothers and a single act of violence. It's about recognizing those toxic patterns in ourselves, in our world, and asking, what are we going to do about it?
Those tough questions.
Yeah, and for all the bleakness, the story doesn't end on a hopeless note, does it?
It doesn't.
We have that incredible moment where God confronts Cain.
Right.
But in doing so, reveals that he is still known, he is still seen, despite his actions.
Despite everything.
There's judgment, yeah, but there's also this thread of mercy that's woven throughout.
Absolutely.
It would have been easy, I think, for the story to end with Cain facing some kind of, divine punishment, but instead he's offered protection. It's like the story is acknowledging that even in the face of making terrible, terrible mistakes, there's still a chance for, not redemption exactly, but maybe grace.
It's such a complex idea, isn't it? This balance of justice and mercy, because it's easy to condemn Cain for his actions.
Totally.
But the story challenges us to go beyond that, beyond simple judgment. It asks us to consider the possibility of forgiveness, of second chances, even for those who seem most deserving of punishment.
It's a good reminder for all of us who've made mistakes, which I know is all of us. We need to hold ourselves accountable for our actions, but also make space for compassion for ourselves and for others.
Compassion.
So we have this very complex story of sin, of guilt, this unexpected threat of mercy, and then just when you think you know where it's going,
Just when you think you've got it
we
figured
have the
out.
arrival of Seth.
Yeah, it's like this breath of fresh air, almost a sign that even after unimaginable tragedy, it goes
It does.
on. Seth, he represents hope, a new beginning for humanity.
Wow.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, the potential for healing and renewal, it exists.
It's like that phoenix rising from the ashes, you know? It's that glimmer of hope in the face of despair. We all love those underdog stories.
You
Those
do.
moments where everything seems lost and then, against all odds, something shifts. And it speaks to that very, very human desire for second chances, for redemption. And in a story filled with so much darkness, Seth's arrival, it's that flicker of light.
It's a reminder that no matter how bleak things may seem, there's always that glimmer of hope.
Right.
We have the capacity to learn from our mistakes, to grow, to create a better future. And it's a message that resonates just as strongly today as it did thousands of years ago.
It does. And it feels particularly relevant in our current times. I mean, think about it. We're facing climate change, social unrest, political division.
So many
It
challenges.
can be easy to feel overwhelmed, to give in to despair. But then you have stories like Cain and Abel, stories that remind us that even amidst the darkness, there's always the potential for growth, for renewal, for hope.
These ancient stories, they have a way of doing that, don't they? They hold up a mirror to our own lives, our own struggles, and they remind us that we're not alone in our search for meaning, for connection.
And sometimes they even offer a glimmer of hope in the most unexpected places. So we've journeyed through this ancient tale, uncovered some of its hidden depths, explored its surprising relevance to our modern lives. It really makes you wonder, if Cain and Abel were around today, how would their story
What would their
unfold?
offerings be?
I know. Would Cain be desperately trying to go viral with his, farm-to-table blog while scrolling through Abel's perfectly curated Instagram feed of, adorable lambs?
This money thought, but it makes you think, doesn't it? Would that online world magnify Cain's insecurities, or would it offer him a different kind of connection, a community beyond just his immediate family?
It's the double-edged sword of social media, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you've got access to support and connection like never before. But on the other hand, it's so easy to get swept up in the comparison, the negativity.
And we've seen how quickly online spaces can become breeding grounds for that same kind of negativity that fueled Cain's actions. The judging, the comparing, tearing each other down for, virtual validation. It makes you wonder if the story is less about the time period and more about the human heart,
Yeah.
regardless of the technology involved.
It's like that saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same. We've got this ancient story whispering warnings about unchecked negativity, reminding us of our interconnectedness, and yet still offering that glimmer of hope. That's a lot to unpack from such a short tale.
It really is. But that's the power of story, isn't it?
It is.
These ancient narratives, they have this incredible ability to transcend time, to speak to something deep within us. They remind us that even though the world changes, the essential struggles of being human, those remain remarkably constant.
They do. You've given us so much to think about today, and it's just amazing how a story this old can still feel so relevant, so full of insights for navigating our modern lives.
It's been a pleasure diving into it with you. And it's these kinds of conversations that really remind us of the power of these ancient texts.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has sparked your own curiosity about the story of Cain and Abel. Maybe even inspired you to, revisit the text yourself and see what other hidden depths you can uncover. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and remember, even in the most ancient stories, there are lessons for today.